Hey all, it's Paul from Drums and Rums, where the backbeats meets the spirits. And so this is not going to be necessarily a Drums or Rums guest. But I think you need to hold on. Don't stop listening to the podcast and the video here. Stick with me here. I have an interesting guest, okay? So this is why, she's not Drums, she's not Rums. But you know what? This is my podcast, and I can do what I want. If you'd like to help support the podcast and our content on YouTube, become a Drums and Rums Patreon member. And please subscribe to the YouTube channel as we work to get towards 1,000 subscribers. Links are listed in the description of this episode. And thanks again for checking out this episode and all of our other past episodes. It all happened once upon a bottom. So the story goes, I met our guest at a restaurant here in West Palm Beach one night a few weeks ago and just started talking, and she starts telling us the story about she's on a reality TV show. And it's like, what? Well, what is it? And she starts telling us about it. Never heard of the show before. Never heard of it advertising. And immediately he's like, well, okay, I have to go watch it now. Mm-hmm. So unless maybe Discovery Channel intentionally sets you out into the wild to promote the show,
no,
I don't know if I would have seen, even paid attention, and so forth. So let me introduce to the podcast here. Star. I'm going to call you star of the show. Yes, you are, because you.
That's your prerogative.
That's me. Yes,
I'm calling. My take on it.
Well, it's my show, so I get to say what I want, right?
Yeah.
The star of the show, The Garden, Commune or Cult on the Discovery Channel. They just wrapped up the last episode here. 6 episodes. Welcome to the podcast, Narayah. How you doing, Narayah?
I'm great. You can stream it on Max now, too.
Okay, there you go. You got to watch. You got to catch up, because there's a lot of references that we were going to make, too. So Discovery Channel, I'm expecting a check in the mail for promoting this show, okay? So please, I'm going to send you an invoice for, promoting your show.
Oh, good.
Yeah, so, but, hey, thanks for, again, talk about chance encounter. How many times does somebody run into a reality star?
It's synchronistic for sure. I think it's a little ironic in a sense of the fact that you host a podcast about rum and drums, but
right.
I don't fall into those categories really. I mean, I've drummed before, and I used to drink years and years ago, over 8 years ago, but I've been sober since. So I think that, obviously things line up for a reason, though. And I just listen to the universe, and there you were, and you do podcasts, and I'm open to sharing my story and putting that out there as much as possible. And here you are. So I just listen.
First off, congrats on the sobriety.
Oh, thank you.
I know it's not easy, and it's for those that are in that journey.
There's a lot to it.
Yeah. So and especially, I don't know. I'm surprised being on that show would have made me drive me to drink. Okay, but that's a whole nother story.
I have a lot of tools that I've practiced to be able to handle my emotions and deal with people. So
right.
And myself, yeah.
So again, for those that are listening here, first off, make sure you choose your favorite podcast platform that you're listening to this on: Apple, Spotify, Pandora. Make sure give us a rating there. That's important. All those podcast Apple ratings do mean a difference. It lets other people know it's a podcast they should check out. And give us a 5-star rating. And then follow us on YouTube. Hit that like button and subscribe and so forth. And we'll talk a little bit some about your things that you're going to work on in the social media space here in a little bit. Mm-hmm. But
hopefully they feel that it's a 5-star, right? So only do it if you feel called to do it. But
no, you must do it. Okay, I know. However you feel, I don't care how you feel. No, I'm just kidding. But it'd be great if you could, right? Obviously, it helps support us.
Yeah.
So let's walk back. Okay. So again, met you, found out about the show, immediately went and binged the first episode. It then got sucked into it, and then was like, and I think I text you later on, and I was like, I have so many questions.
Yeah.
Episode 1.
Already.
Right. And then episode 2 was like, okay, this is my mind's being blown right now, what I'm watching on the show here. So, again, those of you haven't seen it, you got to watch it. But I definitely
to the end.
Yes, you do have to watch the end, because again, a lot of people say, "Is this a commune or a cult?" And I do think you, unfortunately, this is the one downfall of reality TV, right? You're left to the hands of the editing. What makes the show interesting, right? It sounded like everyone afterwards had a little bit of second, feelings about going on the show in the first place, right? Even some of the others that you may not have saw eye to eye with. But so let me walk back here and understand, how did you get into the show, right? Because I think there's a big part of episode 1 where there's a huge, it's like the viewers just got thrown right into the garden in the first location in Tennessee, right? You start, the show starts off there. And for those that again don't know this, the story, the garden's been, you explain. I'm doing all the talking.
I would actually love to hear
what I think.
Yeah, because I've heard similar things, and for someone that you haven't experienced it until you met me, and then you went and did research, right? Right.
So, like a lot of people that looks like they came on that show, they wanted to find out what was going on. That seemed like everyone who joined or was wanting to become part of the garden.
The newcomers
wanted
right. to figure it out, yeah.
But that's the thing is, you weren't a newcomer. And that's a part, there's a huge piece that was missing about understanding how you played into this, right?
Huge piece missing.
Right.
And it's like, I was, but I wasn't.
Right.
So
yeah, okay, so you wanted me to ask, okay, so watch the show. Of course, started watching because they mentioned a lot of TikTok stuff, which I found hilarious. One of the big blow-ups about with you and Tree was the phone stuff and recording stuff, right? But yet, and everything's dangerous and everything's filming, but yet he's shooting TikTok videos and things like that. So right off that, I wanted to punch myself in the throat because that made no fucking sense.
Yeah.
Right. That's first off, right?
Well, that's 2 questions now. So are you just going to give your full perspective?
I'm going to give my full perspective.
Okay.
And then you tell me where I'm right and wrong. And
I just want to be able to go back and answer them all.
Yep.
Okay.
I don't see you taking notes.
You're right. Where is my notebook?
This is like an SAT. She should be taking I
think it's buried in my course.
I have a question and it comes in 4 parts. But so learning about the garden, like I said, I didn't know about the garden until meeting you, watching the show, start diving into TikTok to look up all that stuff. And then the whole big controversy back in 2000, I guess, 2020.
I don't even know.
So about how, people were coming to the garden and, and again, drew more people to it. And the whole thing about the cat, that somebody killed a cat or a raccoon. I don't know. So that's kind of about where I'm at with understanding. I get that there's a sense of preppers, right? There's a lot of, that's not a new thing. I get the sense of people that may be very disillusioned with how society and things are. They want to go live off on their own, living off, which is fine. Go do your thing in your own area, just as much as I'm doing my thing in my own area, right? But some of the ideology, it just doesn't quite make sense. Everything from, if everyone's living off the grid, how the hell is all these cell phones getting charged? How does anybody make money?
It's not really off the grid.
Right.
Not fully, I mean.
Right. It's like, okay, we're living off the grid, but yet, so the supplies going to the store, right? And I think the new guy, I'm totally drawing a blank now on the Viking guy, right? The Tyler, right? Talking about how, he's a true prepper, but people should be actually living off the land rather than dumpster diving, right? Things. So again, I don't know, maybe, Narayah, I don't want to say culture, but I guess the way of living and the way of lifestyle, I guess, is really of that. So I don't even remember what the first question was. So take it for how you want to go, run with it. So.
Okay. So the first thing you were asking was, how did I get involved, right? So I did do a reality documentary 8 years ago as well. Well, more like about 9. And I had a very interesting experience then, and I told myself through that, because there was so much ego involved and just energy that I didn't want to involve myself with. It totally split up our friend group, and not that we were all the best of friends in the very beginning anyway, but it was just, people would rather be in front of the camera and be number one than have that real relationship. So it became a competition for a lot of them, and I was just like, I don't want any part of this. And so through that experience, I told myself I'd never do it again, right? And that was actually, how you mentioned earlier, like, you feel like if you were in my position that this would drive you to relapse, right? If you had been sober,
right? Yeah.
But involved with this group of people. So back then, that's exactly what happened. I didn't relapse, but I went even deeper into my addiction, right? And it got me to the point where I had a DUI, right? My second DUI.
Oh, wow.
And I had to get an attorney, and it was either go to jail, most likely, or go to rehab. And I went to rehab, and I had a spiritual experience within the first week of being there. What they call like a spiritual experience versus a spiritual awakening. So an experience means immediately. So I'm not going to go too into depth with that here, but I will be explaining that more later.
Okay.
But so I had something change in me in an instance, and I no longer wanted to drink or do drugs. And I changed my whole life in that moment. Of course, it took practice and learning how to do it and having a whole new life. But through that process, I've gained a lot of tools. And that is what, to say all that, to get to the point of where this presented itself to me. I was not looking for it. I didn't want to be on TV. That was never a thought process. And so because it came to me and the way that it came to me, I allowed it to come in. I prayed, I meditated, and I got guidance to do it. And so I knew that I could handle it now in a whole nother way because of the work that I've done on myself. But to put a little bit of like more detail into how, really simply, my mom was at a farmer's market. A mutual friend knew a girl that was involved in the group, the garden group, and said, oh, you should talk to Narayah. She's building intentional communities and she's been on a show before. Maybe she can be involved somehow. And so I met up with them here on a piece of land in Florida and spent a week or two there. That was an interesting experience. I mean, how much time do we have here? Because there's so much backstory.
No, okay,
I don't know.
You said it was in Florida, so enough said. Okay, I think that's enough. Okay, I'm here long enough living in Florida that I do consider myself one of the Florida men. Yeah. But yeah, so totally, yeah, Florida is an interesting place, but maybe it's a part two.
Okay,
it's part of it. So, but yeah, continue, because I think that's an interesting thing. Again, for those that are not familiar with the garden or intentional communities, or just a bunch of people living dirty out in the woods, like I said, it is not to be disrespectful, or those that don't understand. It's not for everybody, right?
Yeah. It's not for everyone, and you just got to kind of try it. If you feel called to do it, you just try it out, but maybe do a little bit more research than I did. I just dove in. Right. I had no idea. I found out later, when I got up to Tennessee, like they actually started telling me a little bit about what was going on with them in the past with TikTok and all this craziness that was going on there. But so, yeah, I spent some time with them in Florida, had a very interesting experience there.
Same group or different group?
Both. Same and different. So really? Some of the same. So basically they were interviewing people that they felt would be good to be a part of it for the show, like a part of the journey with the filming.
Okay, so there was already a start of production and casting?
Even before me. Before I entered the picture, they had already been doing it.
And what time frame are we talking about here? How many years ago?
Oh, years ago? Actually, I don't know if I'm allowed to say all that.
Okay.
It was like a year ago.
Okay.
That they actually started formulating everything.
Okay. So it's interesting that it started here. There was your initial meeting up with that was in Florida.
Yeah, mine was.
And then Tennessee.
People came from a lot of different places. Yeah. So it was interesting. I was trying to figure it out. So basically it started with like the connection was made. I called the girl that was already part of the garden. We talked a couple times, and then they added me to this Discord group. And we did like a couple like meetups where kind of like talk about the idea and how it's going to come together and a little bit about each person. And so like your first time on, you say a little bit about yourself, and then other people come on and get to hear about them. And so through that process, they did the council, and it was like a council for each process, and they voted me in on each process all the way up until they voted me out. Which that wasn't legitimate either, but
which is so hypocritical, by the way. It's how the council acted in your ouster, or lack thereof of acting, and over some of this. Like I said, I think that's the unfortunate part of those that did not want to have conflict, and it's like going with the mass. That's the part of what people feel this is why it's a cult. Because if you had a couple of the other girls that came to you and said, "Hey, I agree, and that's not right,"
yeah,
but they never spoke up on your behalf.
They tried to. They do a little bit, right? And then
because they're afraid, right? They're afraid they're going to get kicked out as well, and it's like so. How much is that really community based? If and I think Tyler said some of those things at the end there about how this isn't working.
No, the councils are not legitimate. I found a lot out as time went on. Like I was with them for a month in Tennessee before the camera crew came, and then the week or two here in Florida. So I got to see a lot, and my intentions at first were like, how can I help? Let me provide to this community. Let's figure out where you guys are at. And how can I be of service to you? Like what I do, I do this with people on a regular basis, one-on-one.
Right.
And it's developing into more of a group thing or a family dynamic of just being present, getting to know the situation, whatever it is, mental and emotional most of the time, right? And then I spend time with them and I figure out how I can help. And so as that started to happen and unfold, I just kept getting a lot of pushback, and I wasn't really sure why. And it was just like really confusing a lot of the time, but it became clear as time went on. But so that was my purpose of being there, was like, I felt called to be a protector of the people. So like the group, I knew what happened to me on the show that I did before. And I wanted to make sure that I could try my best to just hold space for everyone and kind of share my experience to keep it from falling apart internally. Right.
So I'm going to ask you, and this might be a little controversial, and I don't know if you're going to be, if you come to answer this question is, there in the second episode where the whole big kick up about always filming, or accused of always filming and filming things, and it's dangerous and all these things. Do you feel that maybe, and maybe you haven't thought about this, Tree's reaction to this was maybe pushed by the producers of the show to not allow you to film while being there, to show behind the scenes and other cuts that never will see the light because of editing?
Yeah, well, there's a lot of that in general, right? Everyone's kind of getting some back end side comments from them. They're directing,
right?
And you never know what's said to the next person or not. They're they're creating some of it for sure.
Right.
But can I touch back on like a deeper truth what you're just talking about though?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, so to clear, this has been, one of the main things people are like, you're being sneaky, you're filming all these people without their consent. So one of the very first things that I learned about this project was that the producers provided iPhones to everyone, like 4 or 5, right? And everyone was going to be doing first person filming with their own camera. And that was like the basis of the show. It was supposed to be half with the real filming and then half with first person. And so I thought that was really cool. And they had already did the thing with the phones. And I was like, you know what? I have an iPhone. Let me just upgrade mine and then I can do it too. And everyone was cool with that. And that's just how it was meant to be. And so that's what was happening the whole time. I wasn't the only one just filming everyone. And everyone gave consent that this was happening by us and by the crew the whole time. So for them to, it was just like their own paranoia coming out and then like wanting to pinpoint it on me for that. Is like, oh, well, that's something that we can say that she's doing. Because they didn't have any other real reason as to why they were acting the way that they were, besides the fact that I could see them clearly. And I like their system and their structure and how they're really functioning. And so I've seen this pattern now. They'll just find something to pinpoint on you and make you the scapegoat or whatever and turn everybody against you and just to get you to leave.
So what was Tree and Julia like before those first 2 episodes towards you?
Like before those first 2 episodes,
right.
Again, the camera crew came.
Okay, remember, I'm looking at this from the viewer. I don't know what happened before,
right?
And I only know what happened since.
Yeah,
you know what I mean,
yeah.
Right? So that's a question that somebody asked me was, what did you know, or what were you told by the producers or the show before you got into it? But of course, so now I think you answered that question because you were a part of it before the show actually took off. So you had an understanding of what it was all about, right? You were you were truly into the community aspect of it. So you had an idea going in, but it seemed like it started to kind of change a little bit. But your antagonist at this point, we'll just call it that, at the moment, right?
Yeah.
Again, this is
falsely.
Well, yeah. So. And again, I've seen some videos even from Julia and Tree talk about how they even felt like they were done wrong too. So
I haven't really watched any of their stuff, honestly.
Right. So
purposely.
Yeah.
I don't want to get into all of it.
Right. I mean, you lived it, right? So you don't need to live it again, right?
Yeah.
And but that was what it was So let me pause there and try to collect my thoughts here.
Okay.
So the first 2 episodes, first episode, you meet everybody who was there. Everybody who was in Tennessee, packed up, moved to Missouri. Then you're in Missouri, and this is kind of when things went south for you, right?
That you saw.
That's right. That's what I saw, right?
Yeah.
So those that kind of were those against you at the end of the second episode, how were they prior to that towards you?
So this was the interesting thing for me. I've been trying to figure out the exact moment where everything turned. And because when you're in it, it's so different than when you were in it and then out of it. Like reflecting back on that whole thing is just like mind-blowing sometimes, what I can see even more so now. But so, and I really don't know to name names or not, but basically there was a lot of controversy within the group from the get-go, and I learned that they have a lot of interpersonal heartache and trauma and just constant chaos with that. And so there were several like heart circles where everyone got together and talked about what's going on, and a lot of it just was arguing, right? And so there is an instance where there was a couple times with Tree and Patrick, and that was like a 2-day long thing at one point. And they're trying to like hash things out before the crew came because they didn't want to do any of it on camera. They want to put on this front, right? So that was going on, and then there was another scenario with Vibe and another member, and that got pretty intense too. And everyone was kind of realizing and feeling out, like, because they're still deciding, like, because it's their say who goes on camera and not, right?
Who? You
The inner circle.
Okay, so not the producers, but
No.
okay.
Yeah. So
Okay. Again, that blows my mind there about everything regarding that, because yes, through editing that can be done, but what you just said there kind of blows my mind about the part of who's on camera and who's not.
Oh yeah. No, they had to stop filming when they said stop filming. So they're still trying to control and manipulate all what's seen and not, because they're not being honest and truthful with everything. So, I think it's smart to have a cohesive group, right? Like, great. But they're still trying to hide truths about things instead of bringing it to light and showing how to solve problems. They want to make it seem like it's something it's not.
Okay, so
that's only one part of it. There's so many other ways that they're trying to make it seem that it is, but it's really not.
So the whole allure was, or pulling behind the curtain was, that the garden was this utopian and everybody's happy and everything's peaceful and all these things and everyone's getting along and so forth, and they didn't want to portray that on TV. Now, why would you think that? Why would that be? To not show, is it because it's tarnishing what the concept of the garden is supposed to be about? A bunch of, as they talked a little bit about in the 60s, right? Is Patrick King, his parents were, hippies or whatever you want to call it, right? Peace, love, and whatever.
The simple answer is they're trying to show that they're not a cult. So, they know what one is. They know what they're doing. That's the thing. And then they know what one looks like when they're not. So they're trying to be that other. So, but to get back to the point where things shifted, right? Vibe was asked to leave the property for a couple of days so they can determine if she should be a part of the show or not. She came back and all hell broke loose towards me. And this was right before the cameras came. And I was like, what is happening? I was like, I didn't do anything. I'm like, I don't understand this. And everything was like coming to a head at one time. So it's like, I didn't really have time to sit with it. I'm just like taking it as it's coming at me. And it was very actually hard at certain points, like emotionally, just because I wasn't expecting that to a degree. I wasn't trying to expect anything, but it's like, when you get hit out of nowhere with multiple things like that, it was just a whole nother level for me. And I can handle a lot, but to be treated in such a way, it was just like, it took me back for sure. But so I could start to see, I think that was like a day or two before the camera crew came. And then that first night in the first episode where they're talking about, they say they've been infiltrated, right? That was a whole side conversation going on when me and Zans are over here dancing. And I started to notice that they really didn't like, the producers came over. I was starting to dance a little bit, and then I got uncomfortable because I could feel the energy, right? And then they came back over and were like, hey, can you and Zans get up and dance some more? And I was like, yeah, I love dancing. I'm all about it. And I could just feel and see them. They hated that I was getting attention. And so that I could see that carry out throughout the whole time. And I tried to, it reminds me of a conversation that I had with everyone in the thought process of let's do problem solving before, like preventative communication of how to handle things
right,
and
get
like
ahead of it,
where we're at, right?
Yeah.
And it reminded me of the show I did prior. And I'm like, you know what? It became the competition because everyone wanted to be in the spotlight. I was like, can we work together? And can we know like that these are the core, there's supposed to be 10 core people, right? That were being filmed. I'm like, can we purposely encourage one another to have equal time? So, and consciously be thinking of that throughout this process and lift others up. And like, cause there's some people that are shy. And I wanted to help encourage them to be more seen and whatnot too. And like, because everyone has a voice, and for them to be seen and heard, they have a part to, you know, in the bigger picture, in the puzzle. Everyone has their piece. And I really wanted to encourage that. And so that was the thought process I had going into it. And as soon as they showed up, it was like tearing anybody down that wanted to be seen and heard.
So going back to the start of what the cameras showed up, do you know, or if you do, can you enlighten how did this come about? Do you know who engaged who as far as filming in this show? Was it from Patrick? Was it from Discovery Channel? Catching the discussion on social media and approaching them about the show, and then on top of it too, it's a TV show. Mm-hmm. Somebody signed contracts. Somebody was making money, mm-hmm. right? I'm assuming somebody, however that works out, that somebody's getting paid for something, right? So I'm wondering is how that plays into some things, right? But do you know, I mean, how was the show actually engaged? Did they seek out Patrick and Tree or whoever? Or was it more like Discovery Channel, the production company, reach out?
From what I know and what I feel comfortable sharing, I have a bigger thought process, a deeper thought process on this. But from what I'm aware of, because they were getting such traction on TikTok, they had like over 1 million views or whatever, and the producer saw that, and so they wanted to get
in
yeah.
on it. Yeah,
mm-hmm. yeah.
Okay, and that makes, and that, I guess understands, and that makes sense.
That's a simple way to put it.
Yeah. Okay. No, and that's fine. I just was curious. Was it more of a opportunistic? That's, I think, is probably the word I used a lot watching the show. Was it seemed like there was a lot of opportunistic people? Like maybe it was it a cult, commune, or just people being opportunistic? Right.
Well, see, I feel like I was being opportunistic, but in the sense of I get to work in my purpose and help people and to be of service and really like put this out there that it's possible to be so different but live together. And I think it could be if people were more willing to work on themselves and go deeper and have a higher level of communication with one another. And they just weren't open to that. They had their structure and they wanted to keep it that way.
Right. I mean, and from the show, you could tell who the alphas are, mm-hmm. right? And that's, those that are just kind of don't want to make waves, and they don't want to, and have a lot of people that's in the show have, I feel, I don't feel sorry, but I just kind of empathetic is, people, a lot of, emotional stuff, as you mentioned, mm-hmm. or baggage or things and confidence things and things that they're dealing with themselves. And, if being in a place in the woods with other like-minded people, away from society, away from other things, again, like I said, more power to you. You're there doing your thing. It's great. Maybe you're getting ahead of it before when the end of the world comes, mm-hmm. And we're all, suffering, and you guys are, I don't know, whatever. But
yeah, well, there's a couple of different things with that. I feel like there's a lot of like truth and beneficial things mixed into a lot of misinformation, And so that's kind of how it works.
If you don't, what I've learned is when it comes, if you don't get ahead of things, people will come up with their own version, story, narrative. That's why it's important to always get ahead of things before and give information, not hide behind it, whatever it may be. Because if you get ahead of it, lay it out there, tell you this is what's going on, and get ahead of it before somebody else makes the story for you.
That's an interesting perspective, but I've actually been doing the opposite. And also because we weren't supposed to be talking about anything yet.
Right. The show's over now, right? So
Yeah.
I know there's other things you might not be because of
right.
Whatever
well, it's just like part of the process. Like you can't do a million spoiler alerts. Like then there's nothing to be excited about watching, so you can't really dive deep into it. But yeah, for me, it was about, because I've been getting a lot of hate, and a lot of misinformation and just straight up lies being said about me. And instead of reacting, right, I pause. I know my purpose, my truth, and not let my emotions take over.
And it was on display at the end of that episode. I tell you what, listening to all that during that council, and you just try to stay as calm as possible. Mm-hmm. And I think maybe it's because, maybe if you were a different person, like you said, maybe 8 years ago, you would have seen a different Narayah.
Yeah.
Right?
Probably, most likely, for sure. Yeah. I mean, it's taken a lot, especially to be to handle all of that. Like it was like a 5-hour council, and they cut it down into 5 minutes. And there was so much that went on in that. And, one of the things that I really wanted them to point out was that they have this code of conduct written on a cardboard, piece hanging up right where we were sitting. And I was like, this is perfect timing to point this out. Like, they're not following their own code of conduct. Right. It's written right here.
Being hypocritical.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's just like an ongoing thing of we say something, but we don't live by it. There wasn't supposed to be alcohol. That was a choice made in the very beginning. And then something happens and they go back on it. Or it's still a rule, but then it's still just happening and people are ignoring it. The other thing was do everything possible to solve a situation before making somebody leave, which we had no mediation, no conversation, not even a single conversation with anyone, because there was a lot more happening. It wasn't just Tree. There was other people that were 100% against me, if not even more, in instigating that with Tree. Mm. So, and I learned, that's called gang stalking. And I found the definition of that. I can't say it right now. I'm new into learning about all this, but it was a very intense situation. And that council was heavy.
Yeah. I think, as reality TV shows have come out more so, I think, I guess MTV gets credit for The Real World, right? I think as some of the first reality TV shows as we know it today. Mm-hmm. We're going back to in the 90s. Mm-hmm. And, things like Survivors, all these things in here. And I'm when I say this, I'm not saying why, did you not know better? But, so I'm trying not to chastise. I'm not trying to,
Yeah.
But yeah, it's in one sense, you're like, hey, I'm going to be on a reality TV show.
No.
But the other side, in a sense, is saying, well, maybe there should be that's just it. We're gonna bleep this part out so we don't give away the $1 million idea here. You need to be like a reality TV coach for people.
That'd be cool.
And prepping people for, and
well, I wanna produce and direct now.
Yeah.
I'm like, this is
now that you see how.
Yeah, but something in truth, not completely manipulated, and there was a lot of things that did not coincide. But you touched on something before we move on that I wanted to mention. Can you say what you said again? Because it was right there.
Which part?
I don't know. What were you just saying? Oh no, it was important. And I loved how you said you didn't want to spoil it, but before you talked about me coaching people going into. Oh no, we'll have it come back around.
We may have to hit pause and replay the tape.
Yeah.
So, no, I think that's, going into it though. That maybe that's what I was.
Oh, you were saying, like, didn't I know better?
Right.
And okay, so to get to that, I love that you asked me that, because this is how I function in my life on a daily basis since getting sober and finding a really deep surrender in my life and just completely giving everything over to my higher power and trusting and learning how to decipher between my lower self and my higher self, my guidance and my ego, fear-based personality that was programmed in versus my higher self that is connected to source, right? So being able to decipher that and use that every second of every day has been my focus. And through that process, I have been guided to very interesting, intense, in-depth situations that if I had listened to my mind, I wouldn't have done, but I also wouldn't have found a deeper surrender and trust. And so even if there's things that I don't want to do now, I know how to sit with that and figure out where that's coming from, whether it's a place of fear or if it's something that's really not in alignment. And so in this case, when I met them in Florida, the experience that I had made me not want to be around the people. But you know what I learned too? Is that that's how they function. If they don't like you, and I learned this before they did it to me, in conversation when we were actually talking for the first couple of days about how they function and whatnot. And they were like, oh, well, if we don't want you here, you won't want to be here, believe me. And I was like, I didn't know what that meant at that moment. And then after it happened to me, like I was there to hang out and get to know everyone. No one was there. No one would talk to me. Kind of like the other Tyler was talking about in the beginning when he went. He was in the kitchen trying to spark conversation with people and everyone just kind of ignoring him and brushing him off. That's what I got, but like times 10, where they weren't even present. They would all run back to their little area, their van or whatever.
Right, the little clicks.
So it wasn't about me knowing better. It was about me having the experience, feeling like I needed to go sit with it with myself. So I was with them for like a week, left for a week, and then came back.
But you were also, I guess, can I say a different person between those two different experiences?
Which two different experiences?
The first reality experience?
Oh yeah, I'm not talking about the reality show. I'm talking about when I met them in Florida.
Right. But I know when I had said was you knew you've done it before. Why would you do it again? Knowing the reality show aspect previously, right?
So because I felt called to protect them,
right,
and to be of service in that way, and then also be of service to the people in the world, and to show them like this is because I've already been working on building structures for intentional communities,
right?
And so I wanted to implement that in with this group and have them be the first group that I actually do it with.
And that's a part, it seems like, on that show. There was legit people that showed up, like, yourself or Tyler or the girl here in Florida. Like I said, I don't remember everyone's names. They were legit there to, and it's always kind of very puzzled me as well with Tyler was, it's like, he same thing. It felt like he had something he felt like he had to provide and give to the world or to somebody or
his
people.
His piece, his gifts.
Yeah, and he was trying to do that. He was trying to legitimately to try to show people how to like really live off the land and or to be self-sufficient. And I guess I'm just totally blown away, I guess, by just watching it and
the non-openness or acceptance or willingness. And you know why that is because their social infrastructure is not solid. Well, it is, but not in the way that they present it to be. An egalitarian community means that everyone is 100% equal and everyone has a say in everything. And they try to portray that as such. But there's really a shadow council underneath making decisions before the actual council or the bigger council happens. But so, they'll shut you down. If what you are trying to portray and present is not what they want, they construe it in such a way and they don't let it happen. So it's not really like it is this open thing.
So what I'm wondering is those, and again, empathetic is the word I want to use, is for those that felt like they didn't have a voice and didn't want to speak up. Did you get to feel that some maybe there had nowhere else to go?
100%.
And this was it. So they couldn't go back or okay. Right. Again, I don't know right. We're seriously just really met. This is really the second time here, right?
Yeah.
So, but you're obviously doing okay. You're doing a thing, and others that are, they're doing their thing after leaving the show, right? They're not probably still on the property, but those I think that I've got nowhere else to go. I'm not part of society. And again, it's I'm not trying to be negative. I'm just trying to be very much trying to understand.
Yeah, it's realistic what you're saying.
Right.
So, and that's kind of how they scope people out, right? So there's different levels to the circles. There's different tiers in the circles. And those are the ones that are more susceptible to be brainwashed and sucked in and just listen and obey,
or whatever,
because they are relying on the other parts of the group to be provided to, like shelter, community, food.
Right.
I mean, like some of them don't even have vehicles and have to ride around with the other ones. So it's like everyone's depending on each other. And that's, I think, a beneficial thing to a certain point within a community. But at the same time, it's what's the intention behind it. And I feel like a lot of their intention behind it is to control the others and to get from them and to use them how they feel called to.
Yeah, I guess. And whether somebody feels that if it's they're mutually a give and take, hey, I'm getting this out of this. Okay, I may have to deal with this. But what is my options, or what am I,
Some feel stuck, though.
I agree. I think that's a perception. Again, I don't understand fully.
And I can't speak for all of them. This is just what I witnessed.
Right.
And, my experience with talking to people, being present, witnessing. I do a lot of just witnessing.
Right.
And
so, all right. So, what's your, again, this was after you left. What was your, so let me back up. This is probably the first question I should have asked you was, did you watch the show all the way through?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So there, fair enough. Right. You want to see how it came out, right?
Yeah.
Here, they say there's always three sides of the truth: mine, yours, and the truth. Right. And
we all have a different perspective.
That's true. Right.
And I love everyone's perspective.
So after you left, again, we'll just call it episode 3 and to the end, right?
Yeah.
Some of the new folks that came in, some that seemed to kind of fit, and we talked about Tyler, right?
Yeah.
Military experience, was a prepper,
There were 2 Tylers.
I'm going to get to that in a second.
Okay.
I'm going to get to that in a second. So obviously, did those new folks that were from episodes 3 through 6, because I think there's probably was others that we just didn't see on the show, but how did they get involved? Did they reach out? Did they, or was it the producers trying to bring? Because let me tell you, the other Tyler, like I said, I don't want to be like so hypercritical and negative, but I'm like, it's a lot of them. Again, I'm only watching what I see on TV, so
yeah.
I mean, I'm trying to not be, again, it's I know some of it is very much edited and crafted in a certain way that doesn't tell the whole story like you, right? Mm-hmm. I like
what I was filming when Tree took my phone.
Right. Yeah, right. Yeah. If you don't see that, that's how bizarre.
I
right?
was filming the teepee and the paintings that I did on it, and I'm gonna put those videos out there.
I don't know, and maybe it's kind of the tone, because I never saw Tree act insane around Tyler.
Oh, yeah, because
for Tyler 1.
He probably got chewed out for how he treated me and is like, you get in line or...
Yeah, he wasn't afraid to speak his mind, right?
Right, with me.
Right.
But that's because I was getting more attention to
Right. So
He didn't want that.
And I think that's what Tyler realized was after that council was like, what the hell just happened there, right? And
Mm-hmm.
he was new, so again, he wasn't quite sure, maybe a whole history or backstory and so forth. But
I threatened his ego more.
yeah.
That was the thing.
So Tyler 2, or he had a tree name too or something like that.
Yeah, Oak.
Oak. I don't know, how do you how does again, Tyler, if you want to come on the show and tell me your side of the story?
He would love to.
I've-
I'm sure. I've talked to him. He's open to it.
I get it's like, same thing with Jessica. Some that were like, this does not fit. You do not fit the mold here, it in the sense of, as a viewer watching the show as it was presented, like, Jessica, you're this prissy girl that's, again, that's how they backstoried her in, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're not going to cut it. But ultimately, she came out, we watched the end of it, and we're like, she seemed much stronger willed and so forth than I think initially she was given credit for. She stuck it through the end, and she wasn't afraid, breaking
Yeah.
nails and whatever. But
Right.
she could have left at
Reaching
any point.
out, like that's hard to do at times too. When
watching
you're in there.
watching Julia's face when Jessica was very upfront and honest.
Yeah.
This is what I think, and this is what I think it is, and I think Julie was taken back by that.
Yeah.
And but yeah, back to Oak. I'm like, you're gonna be. Did he not know? I don't know. You can't speak for him, but I'm just curious. Is like, did he not know what he was getting himself into? And
Probably not.
being.
I don't think any of us did. I didn't even know what I was getting myself into. Like, I figured it out as time went on, just
Right.
like you don't really know,
Yeah.
especially if it's your first time involving yourself around a cult. I mean, an intentional community experience is different than what that experience was.
Yeah. So again, yeah, and it's a good point, right? Is the different perspective coming into, or what did each person understand or were told before they went into it, right? Mm-hmm. So I again, just as a viewer watching, and and again, especially riling up Tree, which was great, asking about a million questions about compost and things that float in the air, whatever.
Microbes.
Yeah, microbes. Yeah, what are microbes?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, Tyler did mention, Tyler too, said that, he had gotten some other form of backstory from the producers as to what this was.
Really?
Yeah. Just more, that it was more of like a survival type situation,
That's interesting.
Yeah. So I don't really know.
It's like
We should get him on here though.
we can do a whole nother episode here.
Yeah.
Co-host it with co-host your the garden commune
Yeah.
your community not rehab, but I mean
It should be. They need rehab. Yeah, that'd be great. I wanted to provide that to them too.
Well,
a means of getting sober if any of them wanted to, and providing information and resources and just my experience, strength, and hope behind that. That was a focus too.
Well, I think that, and like I said earlier, was about coaching people about reality TV shows and having the mindset going in and understanding you come out of this, your life is going to be different for the better or the worse. And I'm sure there's a lot of those probably how's their life experiences afterwards, right? And again, I know unfortunately, you're getting attacked and things and
It's
bullshit.
not unfortunate. It's just what it is. I'm
Well,
not
I know.
upset about it.
Yeah.
It's interesting, and it provides me another way to practice working on myself and not reacting and using my tools, just like everything else in life that comes at you, And I appreciate all of the experiences. I wouldn't change anything.
Yeah. Well, So, I mean, that's a great way to look at it. And no regrets.
Nope.
And you learn, and maybe learn, maybe not do it again, in things in life, not just in this, but how, I'm not going to do that again. It's like touching the stove. You're not going to touch the stove again,
exactly.
right?
You know what? I love this flow here. It reminds me of just how synchronistic things are. And, like, you're saying things, and it is reminding me of, like, these thought process that I've had about this experience, where I've had this in my life on a regular basis of the universe showing me and putting me in circumstances and showing me what not to do first, and being as building intentional community and structure and providing to people information, resources, outlines, all of that, learning what not to do within a community first. And I think that this is a pretty good example of that for the most part.
We go through life, we have experiences, and if we don't learn from experiences, things that we don't like, or things that are good, feel good, it's unfortunate, I think, that if you don't, if people don't learn the second time, you should hopefully at least learn. Maybe the second time I'll give that benefit. Third time, fourth time, fifth time,
Learn. Are you referencing something specific?
Just in general.
Okay.
Whatever the
like
experience
doing the
may
same
be.
thing.
Okay. Right. Yeah.
Like that's called living in insanity.
You got to live. Well,
doing the same thing over and over.
Over and over. I think Albert Einstein.
A different outcome.
Was it Albert Einstein who said that?
I don't know.
Sure. Yeah. Fact check us. Right. Go ahead. Right. Hate mail. Send hate mail to.
Correction.
Yeah. So no. Again, very fascinating. A lot of questions. A lot of things. As a viewer from my lens into the TV show, in the product and thing that was put out in front of us.
Yeah.
Again, there's always the behind the scenes, like I asked you, is like off the grid or money or, all these things. Is how does these things function, and how does, all these questions, and just trying to deal with people. And, I don't know, again, I don't think I would fit. I don't think I would, even knowing what I know now, would I want to sign up for that. But again, if I never saw the show before and I didn't have maybe certain responsibilities and so forth, would I give it a try? I don't know. It's not that I don't like camping, and maybe, I know this is more than camping.
Maybe
but
not with that group. Give it a try elsewhere.
Are you trying to talk me into a cult?
No, I can help provide you with a group in a space that is not.
Yeah.
Now that I know what one looks like, close up from being on the inside.
Here's the do's and don'ts, right?
Exactly. Here we go. Step one.
Oh my God! I went go back to like thinking I was in the Boy Scouts and things. I'm like, there's a lot of that. It seems very much community, and you're out there, you're together. Food is an important place to be around, or the fire at nighttime, or things like that. But
the whole community aspect is amazing. Yeah. Working together, living together, being there for one another, providing needs back and forth, like sharing our gifts with each other. Like that's what I feel like is for me a main focus in this world. Learning what that is for ourselves. Do you know what you can give back to community right now if you were to go to be a part of one?
I could do podcasts in the community, right?
There you go. Get information out there about what's going on. Yeah. There you go. That's one thing, But so, that's such a gift to me to be able to know that about myself and then be able to go to a place and give that. And I feel like if everyone were to know that about themselves more clearly and feel connected and centered within that we could all just give to each other, and we wouldn't be fighting and competing and trying to get to the top, because everyone would be just providing to one another. And when we're in that vibration and of just giving and being in our gifts and providing, the people that have what we need, per se, for lack of a better term, will just be there. Like this scenario. Right. It's the timing. We don't have to even try. As long as we're aware, like I just stay focused on being aware, open-minded, non-judgmental, and like in the moment. And through that, I could have not talked to you for several reasons, being as you were drinking or whatever. Like I don't have those judgments on anyone, right? Yeah. But because I just was present, held space, we didn't even get to the podcast part until almost the end of the conversation that we had, you know? Yeah. So I just love that, how the universe works, and community. And I do want to say like some good things, in a sense. Like I try not to use the term good and bad, but some useful information that I feel like the garden does do is they're
positive
useful.
Okay. Yeah.
Useful. I positive and negative is almost the same as good and bad. And I'm reprogramming my neural pathways with different verbiage to be more in alignment with my perspective. So that's an ongoing thing. Sometimes I'll correct myself in the moment. But so I forgot what I was saying.
You're falling about what
Community.
community and what people provide, the usefulness. Or
What they did that was useful.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
so these were the things that I was really attracted to about them in the beginning. You know, teaching about the composting and the biochar. Like that was the main thing that I saw Tree doing in Florida. Like it was starting to learn about that and teach people in the community about it. And I was like, that's really interesting. Like I loved those things.
Right.
And, you know, those are the type of things that I feel like are useful and beneficial. Like stay focused on that and providing that information. And you know, that's how they can give back to the world. And I think that was good that they showed that on the show.
Yeah, I think there was a lot of good things about there that got into that aspect of living, you know, on the land that most people wouldn't know about, right? Or how you could do these things, or if you're going to, you know, poop in the woods, you know, there's certain things you should need to do and think about and be careful. There's sanitary kind of things like, or. Yeah, I think there was, as you said, there was a lot of useful things that were there, and hopefully, I think there's a term that I hear and I sometimes will use is time, talent, and treasure. Okay. You may not have all three, but you probably can provide. A person can provide one of the three. You may not have time, or you may not have treasure, meaning money, right? You may not have talent, but maybe you have time, right? Maybe I don't know how to do something, but I can help you if you show me, and I'm giving you my effort, my time to do whatever you need me to do. Maybe you have talent, as you maybe, like I said, maybe you're a teacher. You want to show people, like you or Tyler, you were talking about, was I'm going to show you how to do these things and teach others, right? So you have a talent, like you said, right?
Be a provider of information and experience.
Or treasure, right? Obviously, that's an easy one right there to provide on that stuff. But, yeah, I think it's an interesting concept. I'm glad some of it wasn't just wholly about prepping.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah.
and people that are prepping, waiting for the zombies, you know.
Well, I wish they showed more, honestly.
Yeah.
Like of what works, but you know, everything unfolds the way that it's meant to.
Yeah.
Like I said, maybe there'll be a second season where they show more of what does work, you know, versus this one where it's like, hey, this is chaos and this really doesn't work. Take note on that, and then let's show you what does.
Okay, so now the question I've got to hit you with is if they call, would you go and...
Oh, man.
You have your own show right now, right? So Discovery Channel, give Narayah her own show. You know.
First of all, if anything like the were to ever happen, it's not my show. I'm literally only willing to be in front of any camera, especially even like this. Any of them. I didn't do any of my regular social media for basically that 8 years after the other TV show. I'm like, I don't want any part of this ego-based.
Yeah.
I don't need that. You know, I don't need someone. Doesn't need to know my every move. I don't need to post everything, you know.
Social media is weird. I get it.
Yeah.
Right? Because you don't want to overshare. You don't want to put it out there. Some people are like, hey, look what I'm eating, and pictures, and it's like...
I didn't care to do any of that. But I am willing to do this because I feel like it's a calling of mine to be of service to the people. And I would be willing to do anything and everything for that, for the people, if it felt in alignment and I had guidance to do it. Whether that be with them, without them, something totally different, who knows? But I do know that I'm meant to be helping build intentional communities because I let go of my successful business in order to do so because my guidance told me to. I was in the process of buying a house and really I had 6 years, I had a salon in my house and it was an amazing time for me and I didn't want to let it go. But I did because I had guidance to, and that was a big decision, and everything changed at that point. And
yeah, that's big.
yeah, I let it all go, started traveling. And at the same time, you know, I still have family. I still have things, you know, so it's not like everything crumbled apart. It was, I made the decision because my guidance told me to.
How does your family take to all this?
They're supportive.
Okay.
They've always been pretty supportive of just like, well, whatever you have guidance to do, they know how I function now. You know, very different than what it was before. So before, she probably would have been really fearful, my mom mainly. And now she's just like, all right, well, let me know if you need anything type thing. And, you know, it feels good to have that.
No, that's good. All right, I'm going to give you a last controversial question.
Oh, goodness.
All right. Did anybody during your time at the garden, was there any knocking of boots going on?
Huh. You know,
you don't have to say names,
I
but
got
that would be great. That would be great.
I got with me.
No.
Oh, I was going to say definitely not. Definitely not with me. I'm very particular with that. Anyway, so I was asked that question from other people too. I feel like they were so skeptical of me from the get-go, like they did not let me in. So if anything like that was happening, I've heard things, right? Even there was things that were going on there. There was people that left the garden before the cameras got there because they didn't want to partake in it because so much stuff was happening to them. And I got some of those stories before, and I was like, what? And this was right before the cameras came once again, and I'm like seeing all these things unfold. But there was some sexual stuff, you know, you hear like people ask, is there orgies going on, right? And then Tree made a comment of like, oh, let's see if this turns into an orgy during the sexy party or whatever.
Right, yeah.
And so I'm like, I've heard a lot about this, but not ever to my face or seen it. And so I'm assuming that that's a part of it, but who knows?
Well, whether there's the orgy part of it, but then, like I said, there's some that are married there that obviously...
That doesn't mean anything nowadays.
Well, on the next podcast, we're going to talk about... trying to stay in monogamy in a...
Oh, man.
No, it's just interesting. I think some of those things that are still, at the end of the day, there's still daily lives and things going on outside and once the cameras are off and so forth. And, like Survivor, they provide all these safety things and condoms if people want to hook up or whatnot. And maybe that does happen. I don't know. But it's like also sometimes like, yeah, I just don't feel... two people that you're feeling confident or sexy enough to be bug bitten and want to have sex, So,
I guess it depends on the person.
Well, hey, the mood's right, and anyway, so I appreciate it. Anything else that you want to, one. I know you just said that you're not big into the promoting part and the social media, but I know you kind of...
I'm trying to be more now.
You're trying, right? You get things out there.
I'm willing to share that side of me more.
So what should people follow you? How do you check you out? Keep it, up with what you're doing, or where's tell that thing right there?
Tell you right there.
Yeah.
Well, I just started all my social medias, so I think I have the main ones. I'm missing Twitter, but they're all the same name on all the platforms. Or Narayah Santi is Facebook, and Instagram, TikTok, and what am I missing? 1, 2, 3. Instagram, TikTok, Facebook.
YouTube.
I'm starting YouTube. That would be soon. All under Narayah 333 .path of purity with _ between each word.
Okay, there you go.
Is that clear enough? If you have any questions, just find me on one of them, and I will.
So, and again, well, obviously, if you're watching this or listening to this, you probably read the title. But again, when people are going to look, pronounce your spelling of your name.
Narayah.
All right, and how's it spelled?
Narayah.
There you go.
Last name Santi, Santi.
There you go. So then when you're looking for it, I know it's easy, pretty easy to find some of the TikTok stuff out there. Is just type her name and things show. Yeah, and also, before we go, I didn't even bring this up, man. You have a huge fan with Rosie.
Oh, yeah. That was surprising to see. Yeah, I would love to hear her thoughts now. She just did a post before about she's about to binge watch it. And I'm waiting for that video to come out next to see what she thinks about it.
All right.
Yeah.
To be continued.
Yep.
So I appreciate you coming on again. I know Chance Encounters again.
Yeah.
You know, I know you were traveling a lot. You're back here in the area here in South Florida. Again, totally, as I said at the start of the show, was Chance Encounters running into somebody who's was at the time a active on the running show, reality TV show, and then to talk about it and then the experiences and so forth, and then finally watch it. It's like, oh, it's more questions, not just about what's it like to be out on a reality TV show. It's like, oh, let's like talk deeper into it, and definitely appreciate it. Hopefully, you know, this gets the word out there. You know, you kind of set certain things in corrected, or you know, and so
some of it. There's so much more. And
right.
Yeah, maybe we can come and do another one.
Sure.
Or
sure.
See if Tyler wants to come, or any other person that's still, you know, in touch with me.
We should, I'd love to host a reunion show. Yeah, you guys should need a reunion show like they do on like Below Deck or any of those other shows, right?
Yeah,
so we need to do a reunion show of all the guests there that was on the show. So, but yeah, I appreciate Narayah for coming on here. You know, and sharing your experiences with the show, and you know, and how your life. The path you're taking, you know, the path that you're pursuing, and things to, you know, put yourself out there to, you know, help people and be a sunshine.
I appreciate that.
Yeah,
Very kind of you to say. And I mean, it takes people like you being willing to take the time, energy, and effort to be present, set all this up, and have the questions flow out the way that they do. I love it. And very synchronistic how it all unfolded, and I'm grateful for you. Yep. Definitely.
So I know I said in the beginning of the show that it wasn't a drums or rums aspect, but yes, watch the show, watch the garden, because there is actually hand drums at the fire when they're sitting around the fire night. So there is a drum reference in the show. So
there's some rum there too, I'm sure. I wasn't partaking in it.
So I got to check the box. There was drums. So, but again, all right, I appreciate coming on the show here. Let's keep following you along. I think you're a very fascinating person.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. So, all right. Also, don't forget to check out Drums and Rums, the website there. Check out all the socials as well too, his TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube. So definitely follow us subscribe on YouTube. Get those subscriber counts up there so we can quit my day job and monetize.
Is there a way you can link my stuff there?
Yep, we'll put it all in the show notes and everything, all your links and all that. So
I'm learning about all this stuff. So, and it's just me. Well, now hopefully I get a little bit of help from you too.
That's right. Yeah.
I really
a podcast mentor maybe. There you go.
Yay.
So
I'm much in need of that. I was just calling that in recently. So
there you go.
Yeah.
There you go. So check us out there, and I appreciate it again. It's Drums and Rums show. Actually, Narayah, this is actually, you are my first show back since I stopped. I put a pause on the episode here with the Drums and Rums, the interviews, right? The channel does still have current shows on it, and a friend of mine who does rum reviews. So our good friend Nia from My Rum Diaries, she does a rum review show on her YouTube channel, but she also posts the audio on our channel on the podcast version. So the show is still going. So you are the first show back in quite some time, actually.
Yeah,
so,
I haven't even seen your other stuff. So
she didn't know what she was getting into.
Not at all.
Just like the TV show. Like, let's see what happens.
It's in front of me. I have guidance to do it. Let's go.
Sure, what's wrong? How bad can it have? Right. So all right, folks. Thanks for tuning in tonight. There. So this is Paul Robertson from Drums and Rums, and this is
Narayah.
Thanks all.